Welcome to
On screen.
I got a bad feeling about this.
I'm gonna make him an offer again.
I will find you, and I will kill you.
21 gigawatts!
You're gonna need a bigger boat. I am the one who knocks.
That's what she said.
Not great, Bob.
Shall we begin?
Welcome to another pretty good episode of On Screen. I'm your host, Dylan Wright, and I'm here to take you on a journey through film and television. So if you haven't guessed from my terrible Larry David impression, today I'm going to be talking about Curb Your Enthusiasm. Now, this is a show created by Seinfeld co-creator Larry David back in 1999 when Seinfeld was off air for a few years after Jerry decided to call it quits. And HBO approached Larry David asking if he wanted to do a comedy special. Larry said, sure, but let's also have a camera follow me around and catch me in making some social faux pas. They were on board, so they shot that, and they ended up loving it, and people were really happy with it, so they ordered a series. And the series went for 8 seasons, and Larry decided, okay, 2011, let's take a break. And they finally came back this Sunday. The latest episode of Curb Your Enthusiasm premiered, called Foisted. And it's a really good episode in some respects, and it falters in others. But today we're going to talk about the show as a whole, Curb Your Enthusiasm from seasons 1 to season 9. So the show focuses on a fictionalized version, and I stress fictionalized version, of Larry David, who is this curmudgeonly, socially awkward, I guess you would say, type of person. He doesn't really understand society's niceties and feels that if somebody is committing a heinous act of social injustice, he takes it upon himself to right that wrong. He calls himself an equal opportunity offender. Let me just give you an example. So he'll be in line waiting for a coffee, and somebody will walk up and talk to somebody else in line. And he sees this as what's called a stop and chat, where they're pretending like they're talking with this person and they're getting into a conversation, and then they basically cut in line. So he has to call them out. He doesn't just think, oh, well, that's rude of the person, like everybody else usually thinks, and doesn't say anything. He says something. And the problem is Larry doesn't quite know when to stop saying things. He just keeps running and keeps talking when he shouldn't be talking. And oftentimes the joke is on Larry. In a lot of the episodes, he ends up worse off than he was before. And I think this is like It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, where the main characters aren't the best people in the world, but they often get their comeuppance. They often don't succeed in whatever venture they're trying to succeed in. And Larry David is basically an older version of the Always Sunny characters in a way. He's not quite as terrible, and of course he means well by what he does, but he doesn't understand that sometimes you just need to be quiet and let the situation sort itself out instead of trying to put yourself into it and causing a mess. It's a really funny show, and while Larry's the main character, his supporting cast is absolutely stellar. You have Jeff Garlin, who plays his manager, Jeff Green, and he almost acts as a sycophant for Larry. Not quite always giving him what he wants, but he's his manager, and Larry pays his salary, so he can't always say exactly what he wants to say to Larry, and he usually takes Larry's sides on things, but when he doesn't, that's when the comedy comes through. They have really good chemistry, Jeff Garlin and Larry David, and you could tell that they're friends in real life as well as friends on the show. And with Jeff Green comes his wife, Susie, played by Susie Essman, and she is absolutely amazing. She can run a string of curses like nobody else I know. It's just amazing that she's able to, on the fly, just tear someone apart just with her words and her looks, and how it's a really good performance. And you have comedian Richard Lewis playing himself on the show. Honestly, that's probably my favorite relationship on the show, is Larry's relationship with Richard Lewis. And it was my favorite thing in this new episode, Foisted. In this new episode, Richard Lewis's parakeet dies, and Larry doesn't feel that's big enough to offer an actual condolence. He sends Richard Lewis a text, "Sorry your parakeet died. The good news is I'm still alive," which I was dying laughing when I heard that. But then there's this scene where they're on opposite sides of a bar, and each one wants the other to come over to their side. So they're going on this like war of waving where nobody wants to give in, and then they're just like, okay, let's just meet in the middle. But they have a really good chemistry. You could tell that even when they're extremely mad at each other, they're still friends and they're still laughing, and a lot of it is them breaking character, but it's really fun to see them joking their way through serious situations. In terms of the serious situations on the show, a lot of the things that Larry does, they're not great. They're not quite within the realms of what you would want somebody to do politically or socially or any of these things, but that's kind of the point, is that Larry means well and thinks that he is correct in all manners and ends up not being correct a lot of the times. It's sometimes a little rough to watch. There are some cringeworthy things within the show, but if you discount those, it's a fun show to watch. It has a lot of really good humor and social niceties and social situations, which I think is really important. And that's what Larry set out to do, was make fun of both himself and also the norms of society. There's a lot of Larry not wanting to be a part of the world in the way the world wants him to be a part of it. He doesn't like going to people's parties that he doesn't like. He's basically what all of our inner thoughts are manifested. Sometimes that's a good thing. Sometimes it's an awfully, awfully bad thing. He's almost all of our devil on our shoulder, all of our stream of consciousness. Larry is a manifest of everything that's right and wrong about our inner workings. And it's a mirror to society in some ways. And sometimes you don't look too pretty in mirrors. And Larry David is the version of yourself that maybe you're not too happy with. The way that he portrays it makes it funny, and it lets you laugh at yourself. And that's what's most important about the show, is that you get to laugh at yourself and have fun doing it. It's a show that's lasted for 9 seasons for very good reason. It has the staying power that its predecessor Seinfeld has, and it's almost like a darker Seinfeld in a way. It's a cable television version of Seinfeld that has curses and expletives and risque topics. It's Seinfeld After Dark in a way. And the title of the show actually comes from Larry trying to curb the enthusiasm of the audience about, oh, this is going to be an amazing show. This is the next Seinfeld. Oh, my God, this is amazing. Larry's like, okay, calm down, curb your enthusiasm. I don't want you to think that this is something other than it is. So it's funny that the show is as successful as it is. But in terms of Seinfeld, there was actually a quasi-Seinfeld reunion within the show in the 7th season, where Larry's trying to win back the approval of somebody that he cherishes, and he creates a Seinfeld reunion to win this person back. He, in the process, alienates more people by trying to win somebody back. For instance, there's this arc where a water stain from a glass has been left on this mahogany table of Julia Louis-Dreyfus, and he's blamed for it, and he becomes almost a wood detective, where he goes around to everybody and is like, do you respect wood? And he eventually finds out that the person that he cares about was the culprit of the wood stain. He again alienates her after winning this person back because his mind is wired in a way that he can't let things like this go. He can't let the little thing drop that everybody always lets drop. And he ends up being basically alone because of it. So I'm going to wrap it up this week. But before I go, I want to wish the best of luck to Julia Louis-Dreyfus. She recently announced that she was diagnosed with breast cancer. And I wanted to extend my well wishes and hope that everything goes well with it. I want to also extend that to everybody that has this condition. I hope that you power through and you're strong and you make it through. So that's going to be it for this week's episode of On Screen. If anybody has any future suggestions for topics, please let me know. I would love to cover anything that you'd like to hear. And as always, until next time, take care.
I'm done. Goodbye.